Hey there, welcome to Living Stoic Way. This channel isn't for people looking for quick comfort, it's for those who want real strength and resilience. Stoicism shows you how to stand firm through challenges, control your emotions, and master yourself. If you're ready, let's dive right in and start the journey together. Silence is a weapon. Have you noticed this? In love, whenever a man feels hurt, most of them react almost the exact same way. She pulls back, goes quiet, turns cold. And what's the first thing he does? He panics. He blows up her phone, sends message after message, asking, "What's wrong?" Trying to explain himself, trying to pull her back. Some even blame themselves. "I must have done something wrong. I need to fix this right away." In that moment, he thinks he's fighting for love, but in reality, he just handed over all of his power. Stoicism teaches us the opposite. Real power doesn't come from action. It comes from the ability to control your reaction. It's a hard truth to swallow, but it's also freeing. You can't control another person. You can't make someone love you. You can't force someone to care, but you can control how you respond. And sometimes, the strongest response is no response at all. Sounds strange, right? But let me tell you something. I've seen so many men crumble the moment the woman they love grows distant. They try to prove themselves, as if love is some kind of competition and they need to score points to be worthy. But the more they try, the less attractive they become. Because what they're really showing is this: my emotions are completely controlled by her silence. Now compare that to a man who understands the power of silence. He doesn't send desperate texts. He doesn't chase after explanations. He chooses silence, but his silence isn't giving up. And it isn't a manipulative game. It's deliberate. It's intentional. And that's when everything shifts. Because when she pulls back, in her mind, she's already written the script. You'll panic. You'll chase. You'll prove yourself. But when you don't, when you remain silent, she begins to wonder, why isn't he reacting? Did he forget about me? Is he moving on? Just one pause of silence is enough to plant doubt, and doubt is the greatest enemy of control. In Stoic philosophy, we call this a reversal of perception. She goes from feeling confident, thinking she's in control, to worried, unsettled, insecure, all because of one thing: you chose to control your own reaction. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The true power of a man is his ability to remain calm in the midst of chaos." When you hold on to that calm, not only do you protect yourself from spiraling emotions, you also completely change how she sees you. I know, staying silent isn't easy. Your mind starts racing. What if I say nothing and she leaves? What if she misunderstands that fear is what pushes most men into panic? But ask yourself this: if a relationship is truly valuable, can it really collapse just because you were silent for a few days? If her feelings are real, will your composure make her vanish forever? The answer is no. Real love doesn't fall apart because of silence. What falls apart is the game of power. And when that game collapses, what's left is the truth. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about protecting yourself than feeding into a game. It shows strength that you refuse to be led around by fleeting emotions. It shows wisdom that you know love isn't proven by knee-jerk reactions, but often by calm patience. Remember this: every impulsive reaction hands your power to someone else, but calculated silence always brings it back to you. So picture this. One day she suddenly pulls back, less texting, less time with you. Instinct screams at you to do something, but instead, you stop. You take a deep breath, and you tell yourself, "I won't let my emotions dictate my actions. I'll let my silence speak for me." Then you turn back to your work, your training, your life, while she's waiting for a reaction that never comes. she realizes he's no longer under my control, and right there the balance shifts. Epictetus once said, "No one can rob you of your peace unless you hand it to them." Silence is simply refusing to hand it over. See, your silence isn't empty. It's a choice. It's a weapon. And it's a quiet declaration: I am strong enough not to be swayed. I don't need to react to prove my worth. If you truly want to stay, come with honesty, not with emotional games. Control your reactions, the foundation of true strength. Here's a mistake most men make. They think strength is about reacting fast, loud, and intense. She goes silent, and he instantly demands answers. She looks upset, and he scrambles to fix it. She pulls back, and he rushes after her to prove his love. But let's be honest, that's not strength, that's instinct. And instinct, unchecked, almost always puts you in the weaker position. Real strength isn't about how quickly you react, it's about whether you can choose your reaction. Stoicism teaches us that while we can't control what happens outside of us, we can always control how we interpret it and how we respond. That's the dividing line between a man who lives by impulse and a man who lives with wisdom. Let me share a story. A friend of mine once had his girlfriend go silent for days. He panicked. Every hour, he sent another text, made another call, tried harder and harder to get a response. And the result, she pulled away even more, while he fell apart. But another man I know faced the same situation differently. Instead of reacting right away, he paused. He asked himself, do I really need to act right now, or can I observe, stay calm, and choose my response at the right moment? He chose silence. He chose to keep living his life, refusing to let her withdrawal control his entire mind. And what happened? She came back not because he chased her, but because his calm presence forced her to reflect. That's the power of deliberate reaction. In every moment, you have two choices. One, react by instinct fast, emotional, driven by fear. Two, respond by choice calm, measured, intentional. And it's the second path that defines a man's strength. Marcus Aurelius once said, anger, fear, any sudden emotion may come to you, but how you respond that is always your choice. In love, this is the difference between a boy and a man. The boy gets trapped in the emotional game, reacting every time his fears are touched. The man pauses, observes, and chooses his response or chooses not to respond at all. Ask yourself, how many times in life have you regretted reacting too quickly? How many times did you wish you had stayed silent just a little longer, waited one more moment before speaking or acting? And how many times have you realized that if you had controlled your reaction, the outcome would have been completely different? That's why I say controlling your reactions is the very foundation of masculine strength. A Stoic man doesn't deny his feelings. He doesn't pretend he's never sad, angry, or hurt, but he knows emotions are just waves and his mind is the ocean. The waves may rise, but the depth of the ocean never disappears. When you can control your reactions, no one else controls you. She may go silent. She may pull back. She may test you, but you don't panic. You breathe. You observe. You hold your ground. And when you finally respond, you send an invisible message. I'm not easy to control. I'm the one in charge of myself. And this isn't just about love, it's about life. At work, when your boss lashes out unfairly, you could snap back and ruin your credibility. Or you could stay calm, watch, and respond wisely later, earning respect instead of losing it. In everyday life, when someone insults you, you could explode or you could smile, walk away, and keep your dignity intact. Epictetus once said, "The one who controls his reactions is the one who is truly free." And I believe that's one of the greatest truths of life. So if you ask me, what makes a real man? I won't say muscles, or money, or power. I'll say this: the ability to control your reactions. Because muscles fade, money shifts, power can crumble. But the ability to remain calm in the storm that is unshakable. And that ability, that calm, deliberate control is what makes you untouchable. When you no longer need validation. There's a trap most men fall into. They live off women's attention. One short text, one glance, one smile, and they're on cloud 9. But the moment she goes quiet, the moment her reply turns cold, everything collapses. Sleepless nights, endless overthinking, emotions spinning out of control. They believe if she gives me attention, I have value. If she ignores me, I'm worthless. That's a dangerous illusion. Because here's the truth: your value has never been in her hands. It doesn't come from her praise or her decision to stay. It comes from the way you live, the discipline you keep, the self-control you practice, the life you build for yourself. Stoicism teaches never place your happiness in what you can't control. And validation from anyone, especially a woman, is something you can never fully control. She may love you today and walk away tomorrow. She may care right now and turn cold an hour later. If her moods dictate your happiness, you'll always live in fear. As long as you crave validation, you stay weak. You'll overreact. You'll compromise. You'll cling. You'll become predictable. And nothing kills attraction faster than a predictable man. But the moment you stop needing validation, everything changes. Suddenly, you're free. You're no longer glued to your phone, waiting for a text. You're no longer obsessing over why she hasn't replied. You're no longer beating yourself up over someone else's silence. Instead, you return to yourself, to your work, to your training, to your learning, to actually living. And here's the paradox: the very moment you stop needing validation is the moment you become a challenge. Think about it. In love, what comes too easily is quickly taken for granted. But what is independent, what is free, what can't be controlled, that's what naturally draws people in. A man desperate for attention is never a challenge. But a man who knows his worth, who doesn't need approval to feel whole, he becomes mysterious, like a mountain, like the ocean. And people are always drawn to what's mysterious and vast. I've met men who lived only to please their girlfriend. They changed their hobbies, their routines, even their identity just to keep her. And in the end, they lost everything because a woman doesn't respect a man who begs for validation. She respects a man who has his own world, his own foundation, his own value that doesn't need her stamp of approval. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." If your mind is fixed only on her attention, you'll always be dependent. But if your mind is fixed on growth, on training, learning, creating, you'll become the kind of man even the silence of the world can't shake. And here's the paradox again: when you stop needing validation, you become more attractive than ever. Because that kind of freedom, that kind of independence gives off a rare energy. People can feel it without you saying a word. It's in how you walk, how you look someone in the eye, how you carry yourself. It says, I'm not the one chasing, I'm the one choosing. And the chooser always holds more value than the one who clings. So ask yourself, who do you want to be? The man trembling, waiting for a text just to feel worthy? Or the man who smiles, fully aware of his value even when no one is there to remind him? The truth is, you don't need someone to tell you you're enough to actually be enough. You don't need someone to say you're worthy to actually be worthy. You've been enough from the moment you learn to control your emotions and let go of your need for validation. And in that moment, you stop being the chaser. You become the challenge. And challenges, by their very nature, are always more attractive than pursuit. Silence is not a game. It's maturity. There's something I want to make crystal clear right now. A Stoic man's silence is not a game. In today's world, people talk about the silent treatment, about ghosting, about manipulative tactics to control someone else. That kind of silence doesn't come from strength. It comes from fear, from insecurity, from a lack of self-worth. But Stoicism doesn't teach you to play games. Stoicism teaches you to grow up, to mature. And maturity means this: you're strong enough not to use silence as a knife, but as a shield to protect your peace. See, there are two types of silence. One type is silence used to manipulate you, pull away, ignore messages, disappear, all just to make the other person panic, to force them to prove their love. That's a game. And every game eventually cheapens itself, because it's never built on honesty. But then there's another kind of silence, the silence of a man who's grown, who's mature. This kind of silence isn't meant to scare someone into chasing you. It's not a trick, it's a choice. You're silent because you know your worth doesn't need to be debated, doesn't need to be begged for, doesn't need to be proved. You're silent because you understand that sometimes the strongest response is no response. And here's the key difference. Silence as a game comes from ego. Silence as a Stoic comes from self-control. Picture it. She grows distant, turns cold. The immature man panics. What's wrong? Do you still love me? I'm sorry. I'll fix it. The manipulative man goes the opposite direction. He ignores her too, hoping to push her into fear. Both are still trapped in the game. But the Stoic man is different. He doesn't panic. He doesn't plot. He simply stays silent, not to punish her, but because he refuses to be dragged into a power struggle he never asked for. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Be calm in the face of what you cannot control." That calm is freedom, and a Stoic man's silence is the living proof of that. He doesn't react to prove himself. He doesn't go quiet to manipulate. He chooses silence to protect his calm, to guard his value. And here's the thing, you can feel the difference. True silence doesn't carry the energy of anger or bitterness. It carries the energy of confidence. People sense it. They realize you're not playing their game, and that alone sets you apart. But if you use silence as a weapon, eventually she'll see through it. And when she does, all you'll be left with is loss of trust, loss of respect, and loss of your own integrity. The silence of maturity is different. It's like holding up a mirror. You don't say a word, but say straight. But your silence makes her face herself. Why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he pulled into this and in that moment? The balance shifts. You don't need to shout to show your strength. Your composure speaks louder than words. You don't need to prove anything. Your silence is already the answer. Understand this. The man who uses silence as a game is still dependent. But the man who chooses silence as maturity, that man is truly free. Ask yourself, what message do you want your silence to send? Do you want it to say, you're angry, manipulative, playing games? Or do you want it to say, I'm strong enough not to be controlled? I'm calm because I know my worth. The truth is, silence is never just silence. It's always an expression of what's inside you. If inside you is fear, your silence will feel like a mask. But if inside you is strength, your silence will radiate maturity. Stoicism reminds us, you can't control how others act, but you can always control how you face it. And often, the wisest way to face it is with silence, not to manipulate, but to protect your peace. Doubt, the enemy of control. Do you know what really destroys someone's sense of control? It's not loud resistance. It's not angry arguments. It's doubt. When someone thinks they're in total control, they feel confident, even arrogant. And a woman is no different. When she goes silent, pulls back, turns cold, deep down she believes he'll react. He'll chase. He can't handle the distance. That belief feeds her sense of power. But then you do something she never expected. You don't react. You don't blow up her phone. You don't beg for answers. You don't chase. Instead, you hold your ground. You stay silent, not with bitterness, but with intention. The silence of a mature man. And in that moment, a tiny seed gets planted in her mind, doubt. Why isn't he reacting? Has he forgotten me? Is he really moving on? Did I misjudge him? At first, it's just a flicker, but like any seed, it grows. Because here's the truth, the human mind hates uncertainty. We can endure painful truths, but uncertainty eats at us. And your silence is a mirror that reflects that uncertainty back to her. That flicker of doubt becomes unease. Unease turns into worry, and eventually, it grows into fear. Maybe I just lost a man of real value. In Stoic philosophy, we call this a reversal of perception, from confidence to confusion, from control to doubt. And it all begins with one simple choice: you controlled your reaction. Seneca once wrote, "Nothing unsettles the mind more than uncertainty. And when you choose silence, you hand that uncertainty to her instead of carrying it yourself. You're no longer the one thinking, 'Does she still love me?' Now, she's the one wondering, 'Does he still need me?'" See the shift. The balance of power has flipped. Picture this: she opens her phone, expecting a text from you, but nothing. She posts a photo, waiting for your like, but silence. She sends a small breadcrumb, a casual message, maybe just a dot, but still, no reaction. Each time, the seed of doubt inside her grows. And, like acid, doubt slowly eats away at her confidence. Maybe I'm not as important as I thought. Has he changed? Did I push too far? And when those questions appear, control slips out of her hands. The best part, you don't have to do anything dramatic. No arguments, no proving, no counterattacks. Your silence is enough. Because it's not empty, it's the silence of confidence, of a man who knows his worth. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Peace comes when you stop trying to control what's beyond your reach." And in your silence, you're not trying to control her anymore, you're only controlling yourself. That's what sets you apart. Every power game relies on certainty. If she knows exactly how you'll react, the game continues. But when you break that certainty, when you plant doubt, the game collapses on its own. And here's the paradox: the moment you do nothing, you actually do the most. The moment you stay silent, your presence makes the loudest impact. Epictetus once said, "The free man is the one whose mind cannot be controlled by others." And nowhere is that freedom more clear than in silence. Because in that silence, you refuse to be dragged into emotional chaos. You stand tall and let her wrestle with her own doubts. The breadcrumbs test. Have you noticed? When a woman starts to feel like she's losing control, she rarely admits it outright. Instead of saying, "I'm afraid of losing you," or "I regret what I did," she drops little hints. A casual text, "Hey, how have you been?" An unexpected like on an old photo. A short, meaningless comment. These are what I call breadcrumbs, tiny crumbs she sprinkles to see if you'll follow. At first glance, it feels harmless, maybe even sweet, like she still cares. But when you understand what's really happening, you'll see it's not love, it's a test to check. Are you still there? Are you still predictable? Will just one little sign make you jump? And this is where the difference between a weak man and a stoic man becomes crystal clear. The weak man takes the bait. He sees a short message and lights up inside. He replies instantly, pouring his heart out like he's been waiting for this moment all along. He sees a random like and assumes it's a signal of reconciliation, then rushes to reach out. He sees a casual comment and convinces himself it means her love never left. But the harsh truth is this: every one of those reactions only confirms one thing: he's still under her control. He's still waiting, still available, still living off the scraps she chooses to toss his way. And when she sees that, she pulls back again, because the breadcrumbs weren't meant to bring her back. They were just a test. Once she gets her answer, once she knows you're still there, there's no reason for her to invest further. The stoic man is different. He sees the signals, but he doesn't rush to respond. He knows if a woman truly regrets losing him, if she truly wants to return, she won't hide behind vague signals. She'll be clear. She'll say, "I was wrong. I don't want to lose you." Anything less, it's just a game. And a stoic man knows games aren't worth his energy. That's the line between weakness and composure. The weak man chases every crumb like a starving traveler in the desert. The composed man stands tall, refusing to bow for scraps, because he knows his value was never in crumbs to begin with. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do not waste the rest of your life chasing after trifles, when your nature is meant for greater things." And the same is true in love. You weren't born to live off vague signals. You were born to be a man of clear value, one who doesn't need breadcrumbs to feel whole. Ask yourself this: how many times have you fallen for breadcrumbs? How many times did a casual text make you believe the love was still alive? How many nights did you lose sleep over a like on social media? And how many times did disappointment hit you when you realized it was nothing more than a meaningless test? The stoic man learns to stop playing. He doesn't chase crumbs anymore. He knows real love doesn't hide behind half signals. Real love speaks clearly, directly, without games. So when you see breadcrumbs, remember, it's not a comeback. It's a question. Are you still under my control? And the strongest answer you can give is silence. Not silence as a game, but silence as calmness. The silence of a man who has nothing to prove. Seneca once said, "The wise man does not chase signals, he waits for truth." And the truth is this: if she really wants you back, she won't drop breadcrumbs. She'll come back with clarity, with honesty, with the courage to admit she was wrong. Until then, every vague signal is just a test, and tests exist for one reason only: to sharpen your strength, not to make you lose it. When she truly regrets, there's a very clear difference. You need to see the difference between vague signals and true regret. This is where a lot of men make mistakes. They see a short text, a casual hello, or a random like on an old photo, and they immediately think, "She regrets it. She wants me back." But that's not the truth. Those are just breadcrumbs, the little tests we talked about earlier. A woman who truly regrets doesn't play like that, because real regret can't be hidden. It's obvious. It carries weight. When she realizes she was wrong, when she realizes she lost a man of real value, she won't just drop a like. She'll come to you directly, with the courage to say, "I was wrong. I don't want to lose you." That's the only sign you should care about, because true regret doesn't need games. It doesn't hide behind half signals. It shows up clearly, with honesty and with courage. You see this everywhere in life. When someone truly feels sorry for their mistakes, they don't dance around the truth. They face you and admit it. "I messed up, and I want to make it right." Love is no different. If all she's doing is sending vague signals, it means she hasn't truly reached regret yet. And this is where the strength of a stoic man is tested. The weak man clings to every little sign, treating it as if his whole hope depends on it. But the stoic man doesn't. He understands that value isn't found in the vague, it's found in clarity. If she wants back, she'll say it directly. If she regrets, she'll make it clear. If she wants to fix things, she'll take action. Epictetus once said, "Let the truth be shown through actions, not just words." And in this case, you have to watch what she does, not just what she hints at. If she just sends a casual text, "Hey, how are you?" that's not regret. If she just likes a photo, that's not regret. If she posts a vague status, that's not regret. Real regret is when she steps past her own pride, admits her mistakes, and actively works to repair what she broke. And that's the moment where you hold real power, the power of choice. You can forgive. You can give her another chance. Or you can simply smile and keep walking forward. What matters most is this: you no longer need her decision to define your worth. Whatever you choose, you remain untouchable. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Your value is not diminished by the lack of someone else's recognition," which means her regret or lack of it never decides your value. That value was already there the moment you learned how to stay calm in the storm. Remember, breadcrumbs are just a test, but true regret is always clear. If she truly regrets, you won't need to guess. You won't need to analyze every little signal. You'll know because she'll say it, with her words and with her actions. And if that day ever comes, you'll be able to look her straight in the eyes, not with fear, not with panic, but with the calm of a stoic man. Because you know the real reward was never about her coming back. The real reward is the man you became on the journey. Real value doesn't need proof. Have you noticed? So many men, the moment a woman pulls back, they throw themselves into a desperate mission to prove their worth. They flood her phone with messages, send unnecessary apologies, even buy gifts or write long speeches just to make sure she knows, "I'm still worthy. I'm still worth staying for." But here's the brutal truth: real value never needs proof. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Be like a rock. Waves crash against it, but it remains unmoved. And the waves, in time, fall away." That's the picture of a stoic man. He doesn't need to say much to prove his strength. He proves it by standing firm, by remaining calm, by showing discipline in every action. The weak man, on the other hand, believes his worth depends on someone else's gaze. If she smiles at him, he feels valuable. If she goes silent, he feels worthless. And that false belief makes him a slave to validation. But recognition from others is like a shadow in the sun. It comes and goes, shifting with time. If you depend on it to survive, you'll never know peace. Epictetus taught, never look for your worth in what can be taken away by others. And attention, approval, affection, all of it can vanish in a moment. But discipline, self-control, and inner calm, those can never be taken. So think about it. What really makes a man valuable? Is it the texts he sends, the gifts he buys, or is it the fact that he can stay calm in a storm, stay disciplined in hardship, and keep walking tall even when left behind? True value is shown in the way you live, not in the excuses you make. It's proven by your consistency, not your desperate attempts to please. Picture this: a man who trains regularly, cares for his health not to show off his body, but because he respects himself. A man who works hard, builds his career not for applause, but because he has goals and responsibility. A man who reads, studies, and sharpens his mind not to show off his intelligence, but to become a better version of himself each day. That's real value. And real value doesn't need proof. People, women, or anyone else can sense it. You don't need to shout that you're strong. The calm in your stride says it for you. You don't need to beg for recognition. Your discipline is evidence enough. The Stoic man knows his value doesn't come from someone else's approval, but from living true to his own principles. Seneca once wrote, "The happy man is not the one praised by many, but the one who can sincerely praise himself. And when you lie down at night, able to tell yourself, 'Today I lived by my principles. I was disciplined. I stayed in control. I wasn't ruled by emotions or by anyone else,' that's when you know your worth is real." So instead of scrambling to prove yourself, let your life be the proof. Instead of chasing recognition outside, build recognition inside. Because in the end, true value never asks for validation. It radiates naturally from who you are, from the discipline and self-control you practice every single day. And here's the irony: the moment you stop trying to prove your value, when you simply live at discipline, control, consistency, that's when others begin to see it most clearly. Focus on building yourself, turning pain into power. There's a strange paradox in love. The moments that feel like you're weakest can actually become the turning points that make you stronger. When someone leaves you, when silence surrounds you, when the pain feels like it's crushing your chest, it's not the end. If you know how to handle it, it can become the very fuel that rebuilds your life. Stoicism teaches it's not events themselves that hurt us, but how we interpret them. If you see pain as the end, you collapse. But if you see pain as a lesson, as an exercise given by fate, you grow. And this is the most crucial moment. Instead of pouring your energy into chasing, begging, or clinging, use it to build yourself. Start with your body. Go train. Go run. Go sweat. Not just to look better, but to remind yourself that you are disciplined, that you own this body. Every rep in the gym, every drop of sweat is a silent declaration: I'm still here. I'm stronger than I was yesterday. Then, turn to your mind. Instead of spending hours waiting for a text, pick up a book. Learn a new skill. Write down your thoughts so your mind becomes clearer. Pain, if left sitting in the dark, will eat you alive. But if you turn it into the fuel for growth, it will lift you into someone entirely new. And don't forget your purpose, your career, your mission. Instead of analyzing every word she said, analyze your financial goals. Instead of chasing a fading shadow, chase your dreams. A man busy building his life doesn't have time to obsess over who walked away. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Don't waste your life worrying about what she thinks of you. Use it to become the best version of yourself. I've seen it so many times. Some men let pain turn into obsession. They lock themselves in dark rooms, replaying memories, waiting for a miracle from someone who's already gone. But others, they turn pain into fuel. They get up, they train, they work, they learn. And months later, they're unrecognizable, stronger, sharper, more confident. And here's the beautiful part: when you're busy building yourself, obsession disappears. You no longer sit waiting for your phone to light up. You no longer analyze vague signals. You no longer whisper, "What does she think of me?" Because now the only question you care about is, did I take another step forward today on my path? Imagine yourself 6 months, 1 year from now. You're standing in front of a mirror, your body is stronger, your eyes are brighter, your career is steadier, and then you realize the pain you thought would destroy you was just the fire that burned down the old forest so a new one could grow. A Stoic man doesn't run from pain, he transforms it. He knows loss is not the end, it's the beginning of rebirth. Epictetus once said, "Use what happens to you as fuel. Fire can destroy, but it can also forge steel." Pain is the same. It can break you, or it can forge you into a man unshakable. So turn the pain into your gym, your desk, your launch pad. Let every tear become fuel for a run. Let every silent night become a page in a book. Let every heartbreak become a push forward in your mission. Because in the end, what defines you isn't that she left. It's what you did with the pain she left behind. Did you let it drown you, or did you use it to rise? The weak man gets consumed by pain. The stoic man uses pain as a springboard. And when you choose the second path, you don't just rebuild yourself, you rebuild your entire life. Relationships as a philosophical test. Love as a school for the soul. Have you ever thought of love as a kind of school, a place where every joy, every heartbreak, every silence, every goodbye is like a lesson sent to test your soul? That's how Stoicism views love. It's not just about emotions, romance, or fleeting sparks. It's a classroom, a philosophical test where you train discipline, calmness, and inner strength. When a woman pulls away, when she goes silent, when your heart feels like it's being squeezed, that moment isn't just a test of love. It's a test of character, a test of maturity. It asks you one simple question: will you let emotions control you, or are you strong enough to control them? In this classroom, there's no teacher standing at the front. The teacher is life itself. The exams aren't written on paper, but written on your heart. And the grade you earn isn't measured by her approval, but by how calm you can remain in the storm. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Every person, every event you encounter is sent as training for your soul." And what is a relationship, if not one of the most demanding, but also the most valuable trainings you'll ever go through? Think about it. When a woman uses silence to control, it's not just about romance, it's a psychological challenge. It forces you to learn patience, to learn control, to learn how not to lose yourself simply because someone else pulls away. If you can pass that test, you don't just win in love, you win yourself. And here's the beauty of it. Once you master calmness in love, one of the most emotionally explosive areas of life, then outside of love, no one can easily shake you again. You carry that same steadiness into your work, into your friendships, into every decision you make. Love, then, is not just something to enjoy. It's something to train with. It's a gym for the soul. Every jealousy, every silence, every argument, these are invisible weights. You can let them crush you, or you can lift them again and again until they make you stronger. Seneca once said, "Hardship trains the spirit the way enemies train soldiers." Love is that subtle battlefield where you learn to become your own warrior. Ask yourself this: haven't the heartbreaks in your life taught you more than most books ever could? Wasn't it in being left behind that you learned how to stand tall? Wasn't it in silence that you learned how to truly converse with yourself? When you see love this way, nothing is wasted. Even loss carries meaning if you choose to extract the lesson. The weak man sees love as a gamble win, and he celebrates. Lose, and he collapses. The stoic man sees love as a school. Every experience is a lecture. Every setback is an exam. Every time he endures is another step in his growth. And the miracle is this: when you step into love with the mindset of a student of philosophy, you stop fearing loss, because even when love ends, you still walk away with something greater: wisdom, strength, resilience that no one can ever take from you. So look at your relationships with the eyes of a philosopher. Don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" And when you make that shift, love is no longer just a journey of emotions. It becomes a journey of growth, a path that transforms you from a boy who breaks easily into a man who cannot be broken. The power of emotional detachment, the paradox of attraction. There's a paradox in relationships that few people ever notice. The less you depend, the more attractive you become. At first, it sounds backwards. Society tells us that love means holding on, proving yourself, showing how much you need the other person. But from a Stoic perspective, the truth is the opposite. The more you cling, the more you lose your value. The more you detach, the freer you are, and that freedom is the greatest form of attraction. Now, let's be clear, detachment doesn't mean you're cold or incapable of love. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you don't let emotions run the show. You don't let someone's presence or their absence decide your worth or your happiness. Think about it. When a man desperately craves attention, he becomes predictable. He reacts instantly to silence. He panics at the slightest test. And that predictability kills attraction. But the man who practices detachment, he's different. He can love without becoming a slave to love. He can care without losing himself. If she stays, good. If she leaves, he still stands tall. And here's the paradox: the very moment you stop needing her, you become the man she desires most. Picture this: a woman who's used to you reacting to every little signal suddenly sees you not react. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't try to prove anything. You keep living. You keep working. You keep building yourself. You become mysterious. You become a challenge she can't easily solve. And that's when attraction returns, not because you tried, but because you let go. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The free man is the one who is not dependent on things outside himself." When you stop depending on validation, you become free. And that freedom is magnetic. Weak men often think, if I don't prove myself, she'll leave. But the truth is, women aren't drawn to weakness. They're drawn to strength, not to the man who needs them to survive, but to the man who can thrive whether they stay or go. Epictetus warned, "Don't put your happiness in the hands of others, or you'll become their slave." That's the essence of detachment. You love, but you're not bound. You care, but you're not controlled. You appreciate, but you don't lose yourself. And here's the beautiful paradox: the moment you no longer need her, you become the very man she and the world desires most. Because true attraction isn't born from begging. It's born from standing firm, free, untouchable. So ask yourself, who do you want to be? The man who's always afraid of losing, always waiting for validation to feel valuable, or the man who can smile, love deeply, but if love walks away, still walk forward with his head held high? The first kind of man is common and easy to leave behind. The second kind is rare and, because of that, irresistibly attractive. Inner freedom, the greatest legacy. There's a kind of freedom greater than not being locked up, greater than not being controlled by anyone else. It's inner freedom, the state where no look, no word, no silence, no withdrawal has the power to rule over you. Most people in love, at work, in any relationship, live as if they're puppets on strings pulled by the outside world. A compliment lifts them up. A criticism drags them down. Someone stays, they feel valuable. Someone leaves, they collapse. Their entire life is dragged back and forth by external reactions. But the Stoic man lives differently. He knows that the only thing he truly owns is his mind, and if he can master it, he gains a freedom no one can ever take away. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You may chain my body, but you can never chain my mind unless I allow it." That is the essence of inner freedom. Think about it. All the lessons we've talked about before. Calculated silence, controlling your reactions, letting go of the need for validation, detaching from emotions. They're not random tricks. They're steps on the same path, a path that leads you here to inner freedom. Because as long as you still need attention, you're dependent. As long as you still fear silence, you're controlled. As long as you rush to prove yourself, you're still trapped. But the moment you rise above all of that, you unlock a new kind of strength. No one can control you with love, with silence, with withdrawal, or with games of power. And that is the greatest legacy. Because love is only one part of life, inner freedom covers it all. When you have it, you're steady, not just in love, but in work, in family, in friendships, in society. You become the man who walks into any room carrying a different energy, the energy of stability, of confidence, of someone who cannot be easily shaken. Epictetus reminded us, it's not events that disturb people, but the way they interpret them. And when you've mastered your interpretation, you've touched a freedom that lasts forever. Picture this: one day, she leaves. Do you feel pain? Of course. Do you feel loss? Absolutely. But do you collapse? No, because that pain no longer defines you. You stand, you keep moving, you keep building, you keep living. And in that moment, you've given yourself an irreplaceable gift, inner freedom. And once you have it, it never leaves. It doesn't vanish if a relationship ends. It doesn't crumble if someone turns their back. It doesn't weaken if someone withholds their approval. It stays rooted in you, like an unshakable fortress. Inner freedom is the greatest legacy you can leave, not just for yourself, but for everyone who crosses your path. Because when a man is truly free inside, he inspires everyone around him. He becomes a pillar for his family, a model for his children, a steady companion his friends can rely on. And, most of all, he becomes a man that even adversity must respect. You might lose love. You might lose opportunities. You might lose things you once thought were everything. But if you keep your inner freedom, you've lost nothing. In fact, you've gained something more precious than any success the world can give: the power to master yourself. Men chase after money, fame, and power. But believe me, there is no possession greater than inner freedom, because all of those things can be lost. But once inner freedom is forged, it stays with you forever. The true reward: becoming the untouchable man. If you've followed this journey up to now, maybe you've already realized something. This was never about her. It was never about clinging, waiting, or hoping she'd come back. It was always about something much bigger, about you, about the man you've become through the silence, the heartbreak, the trials of love. Because if the only reward you're chasing is her return, then you're still living in dependence. Your value still lies in someone else's hands. If she comes back, you're happy. If she doesn't, you collapse. That is not freedom. That is not strength. But if your reward is growth, discipline, mastery of your emotions, and the inner freedom you've built, then whether she returns or not, you've already won. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't hope that life will give you what you want. Hope that you become the kind of person who can handle whatever life gives." And that's exactly what you've been training for. You've learned how to be silent with intention not to manipulate, but to stay at peace. You've learned how to control your reactions so you remain the master of yourself. You've learned to let go of the need for validation so you can finally breathe free. You've learned the paradox of detachment, that the less you need, the more magnetic you become. You've learned to turn pain into fuel, to let every loss become the foundation for growth. And in the end, you've learned to claim the greatest legacy of all: inner freedom. So what's the true reward? It's not a text saying, "I was wrong." It's not another chance with her. It's not the regret in her eyes. The true reward is when you can look in the mirror and see a man who is steady, calm, Untouchable, a man storms cannot shake. A man no one's silence can control. A man who doesn't live off outside approval, but radiates strength from within. That is the greatest victory. You see, women and the world are always drawn to this kind of man, not because he's perfect, not because he never feels pain, but because he's learned to turn pain into power. He can love, he can give, but if he loses, he still stands tall. And that kind of man in love, in work, in every part of life, is untouchable. Seneca once said, "The happy man is not the one who has everything, but the one who never loses himself, no matter the circumstance." And that is you if you live the Stoic way. So remember this, the reward was never her return. The reward is you, the new version of yourself, steady, free, unshakable. You don't need to prove. You don't need to beg. You don't need to cling. You just keep living, keep building, keep walking calmly through the storms of life. And in doing so, gracefully, you'll discover you've become the man no one can control. That is the final meaning of this journey.